Richardson, ESPN Arkansas radio host. Really good interview, especially the tail end here. I mean, he is not going to have a single friend if he did already in College Station. He buries Texas A&M. And keep in mind, this is his opinions. This is not me saying this stuff. This is Ty Richardson at Ty Sports Radio. Give him get mad at him. Don't get mad at me for what he's about to say right here. Hey, we're pleased to be joined by friend of the show, Ty Richardson. You know him, host of the Morning Rush, ESPN Arkansas, and you follow him at Ty Sports Radio on the Twitter machine. Ty, thanks for joining us once again. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely, Mike. We are heading down to Texas today to watch Arkansas play Texas A&M on Saturday. I cannot wait. It's going to be good to be back in the great city of Dallas, Texas. A lot of Arkansas fans. Big SEC matchups this week, and I know one is in Knoxville on your mind, but all eyes in our opinion, in Arkansas's opinion, it's going to be what's happening in Jerry World down there in Arlington.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Tennessee, Florida may have gotten game day, but I think just about everybody that is not biased would tell you Arkansas, Texas A&M probably going to be the better game. And hey, you've made it publicly known, no fan of them Aggies, so you are the perfect guest to come on the show to talk about this matchup. But before we get to that, I just wanted to get your thoughts. What in the world was going on in your head last weekend during that Missouri State and Bobby Petrino game?
Whew. Tell you what, so interesting dynamic for me, Mike. I'm at a wedding reception and watching this game with several of my buddies, and we are nervous, as Arkansas fans are, watching Missouri State take advantage of the Razorbacks for the majority of that football game. Outscored them 21-3. A huge sigh of relief was basically across the board in that wedding reception. You heard several "Give me the hog, Chuck," which is Chuck Barrett, who's the voice of Razorback football and basketball, also does the morning show with Tommy and myself. It was just a sigh of relief, a breath of fresh air. But man, it was not always that case, Mike, watching that football game.
Did that game make you nervous about Arkansas' season at all, or is it you just think they're totally looking past the opponent?
I think as much as Sam Pittman and his staff preach to these guys that this is an offensive genius in Bobby Petrino, they took Oklahoma State to the wire in Stillwater last year. This was not a game that they 100% realized was going to be as tough as it was. Until you actually step on that field and see that these guys across from you aren't FCS actual opponents. That's not an FCS football team. That's an FBS football team. Petrino brought, I want to say 48 transfers across the board on his roster. That's not an FCS team. And so they were getting whooped. Just to be honest, they turned the ball over, something Arkansas hasn't done this year. But to see them rally, to see them finish off the Bears in the fourth quarter, I think Arkansas fans felt like maybe the previous regimes would have lost that game. But Sam Pittman, he rallied the troops and he got it done. He gave credit to the players, what they were able to do in the fourth quarter.
Now, shifting gears to the big game this weekend, I asked you off air, but I want to hear your reaction on air. Thoughts on A&M being the betting favorite? Any way you slice it, even I think some diehard A&M fans look at this game and say, man, I think they would even favor Arkansas to win it. So what's your thoughts on that betting line?
You know what? You're the actual first person that told me that A&M was favored in that football game, and then in this football game. I was a little surprised on Sunday when I saw that line, and am still surprised it hasn't shifted to even money or even in Arkansas's favor. I think it's now more kind of that 1.5-1 as we sit here doing this on a Thursday. So I think there's a chance before game time that it becomes even money, because Arkansas fans, I think, are just going to flood Vegas with, and I know it's not just about Arkansas fans, it's other money as well. It's about a pick 'em. So this is going to be a close football game. It has been for the most part of this series the last decade or so. I wasn't too annoyed by it, but I honestly kind of liked it. It's like, all right, you're still not going to respect us, even though Arkansas has the better football team. We'll prove it on Saturday.
Who needs this win more? To Arkansas to keep this dream season alive, or A&M? I think last week against Miami, they literally saved the season. Had they lost to Miami, the season would be over. And they got that win, obviously. They got a little momentum. They're still undefeated in conference play. Well, obviously, all their conference games remaining. But who needs this game on Saturday more, Arkansas or Texas A&M?
Mike, I think that's a great question. And you set it up perfectly. Dream season, or to just kind of salvage what the season could have been. If A&M was to lose on Saturday, that would mean they'd start out 2-2. And this team is not winning out in the SEC to get to that SEC title game if that was to play out that way. So that being said, I still think it's probably more facing A&M just because of their expectations that are coincided with that recruiting class that Jimbo Fisher and Texas and the oil money did not earn, they bought it. So that being said, I still think it's the Aggies, but Arkansas fans expect to win this game. Arkansas's players expect to win this game. Sam Pittman and his staff aren't going to come out and say it, but they expect to win this game. So it's going to be a battle of ideals. It's a physical football game. A&M's got a good defense. Arkansas's got a good offense. One's going to break. Is it the Razorback or the Aggies? We'll find out at 6 o'clock on Saturday night.
How big of a concern is Arkansas secondary in your mind going into this matchup with obviously Catalon out for the year, unfortunately? Miles Slusher sounds like he's going to be good to go. How big of a red flag is that, or is it not much of one because A&M may not be suited to even take advantage of it?
When you have a guy like Ainias Smith or Devon Achane in the backfield, that's going to cause problems for Arkansas in pass coverage. And I know Achane's a running back, but he can catch the football as well. Max Johnson shouldn't scare you, like blow you out of the water if you're an Arkansas fan, or Barry Odom. But it's the remaining weeks after that you should be concerned about. It's when you have to battle Bryce Young, Will Rogers, and Jaron Hall back to back to back weeks. This is a good week for you to kind of collect yourselves, figure it out in the back end. I know Jalen Catalon's back out for the year, but you do have Slusher back, as you mentioned. That's going to be a big plus for Arkansas. You guys have got to figure it out in Arlington, because if you can't figure it out against Max Johnson, you sure as heck ain't going to figure it out against those three quarterbacks that I just listed, with two of those being on the road, one in Starkville and one in Provo.
Do you think KJ Jefferson, if A&M forces him to win this game with his arm, do you have confidence that he can get that done?
I have confidence in KJ Jefferson every game this season, and that includes Alabama. Luckily, they don't have to play Georgia this year. Maybe if you asked me about that, I'd give you a different answer. But KJ has shown there's this huge stigma around KJ that he can't throw the football. And honestly, it's not you, Mike. You're as high on KJ as any SEC or national media member. But this idea that he can't throw is ludicrous. He's proven people wrong time and time again. Kendall Briles puts him in great situations. We've seen his arm accuracy on the deep ball. Go back and watch the Missouri State game. He was throwing some precise deep passes, in addition to ones that guys just dropped, and he put them to only where his wide receiver can go get it. The interception he threw went off Trey Knox's hands and then went into the arms of the defender. I think if KJ is tasked to beat him throwing the football, when in certain situations and certain coverages he might, I think he's going to burn Texas A&M as long as Arkansas's wide receivers get open, which I think, again, that was a question mark heading into the season. Jaden Hazelwood, Matt Landers, Keetron Jackson, and others have shown that's not necessarily a question mark, that they can get it done. But this is a good Aggie secondary with some talent and some athleticism. It's a good test for Arkansas's wide receivers on Saturday.
Did you get an opportunity to watch the Miami A&M game?
I'd be lying to you if I watched the game live. I watched some highlights. I know that Miami was able to get some yardage on Texas A&M, but the scoring, I mean, we've always heard the phrase bend but don't break. That's exactly what Texas A&M was in that game in College Station. Right. And on the other side, they just didn't overly impress me on offense, Mike.
Yeah, they really limited him. A&M's defense. Credit A&M's defense for locking it down in the red zone. But the only reason I bring that up, and I don't like to sit here and trash players or anything. So this is not me trashing them, but I heard this Miami quarterback. They're saying NFL quarterback, first round pick, and he did not impress me at all. And he had a tight end that was pretty good, but it didn't seem like he had a single capable receiver. And I'm sitting here wondering, I'm not sitting here saying KJ Jefferson is going to be first round pick. I mean, it's wild, Ty, how there's always 30 first round quarterbacks, and then we get to the draft, there's really two or three. But I just based on what I've seen, KJ Jefferson is a hell of a lot better quarterback than the Miami one I just saw, and he's surrounded by weapons that are better than him. So I don't necessarily get that this is going to be an issue, but I just wanted to make that point. I don't know if you've seen this, but A&M there's 12th in the SEC in run defense.
Yep.
Do you think Arkansas? I mean, hell, they got the hottest running back in maybe even the country. He's number one in the SEC, Rocket Sanders. Do you think Rocket Sanders will find success against this A&M defense?
I think you just go back to last year and see what Arkansas did in the first half of that game. They ran all over Texas A&M. And it was Traylon Smith, it was Dominique Johnson, Rocket Sanders, and then KJ gets injured in that ball game. The offense kind of takes a step back with Malik, but Arkansas had success running the football down their throats, and for the most part, Texas A&M couldn't stop it. I know it's a year-to-year difference. Texas A&M doesn't want to go through what they did last year, but Arkansas's offensive line's been really good this year. Sam Pittman's been very impressed. You mentioned Rocket Sanders. Here's a guy that played slot receiver a bunch of his high school career in Rockledge, and now he shifted over to running back, and he played some running back too. I don't want to be incorrect on that. Played some running back in high school. The guy just plays. He's a football player. There's guys that just you put them anywhere, they'll make plays. Drew Sanders is another one. Rocket Sanders is a football player, and if you put him in good situations like KJ and Kendall Briles is going to on Saturday, he's going to make plays, and Texas A&M is going to be hurting. There's no question about it.
Now, I listened to your show this morning, The Morning Rush. Check it out, ESPN Arkansas Radio. You made an interesting point. I'm wondering if you could rehash it for the audience, but why you think Arkansas and that pass rush will be so critical facing Max Johnson in this A&M offense.
Well, I think when you look at Arkansas right now, 17 sacks this year, number one in college football. Last year, I think their season total was 25, if I remember that right. They didn't get to the quarterback last year. Buried him, ran 3 down linemen, rushed him, dropped 8 in coverage. And some games it worked, some games it didn't. This year we've seen if you don't get to Spencer Rattler, Bryant, or Shelley, they're going to beat you. But a lot of time Arkansas gets home. It's not just about bringing the quarterback down and getting that sack. It's about the tackles for loss. It's about the quarterback hurries. It's about knocking him on his butt. Max Johnson, he has some mobility. I heard Jimbo Fisher touch on that this week, but he's not overly mobile. And he's also, I mentioned Anaya Smith earlier, who I'm not going to take anything away from him. That guy's outstanding. But I just think that Arkansas, as long as they're able to get similar pressure, which they've done through the first 3 games, A&M's going to have problems. And I think Arkansas's pass rush is going to get home a few times on Saturday night.
Now, Ty, I know you told me you're heading down tomorrow to Arlington. What can you tell Razorback fans, even Aggie fans that maybe have never made that trip? What are the go-to spots and where you going to be posted up Friday night? Because I know it's going to be the best place in town.
I would say get there as early as possible. I think gates open 4 hours before, and they're legitimate gates that Jerry and his team lock because they don't want you tailgating before. Get there as early as you can. Get in line because it is always tough to get to that part. You've got Texas Live right nearby, Arlington and Globe Life Park, AT&T Stadium. We're going to be at KSP Henderson on Friday from 2 to 6. And then I'm staying with my brother who you've gotten a chance to talk to, Mike. I have no idea where we're going. He lives in Dallas. I'm just going to follow him. I've got a bunch of Arkansas, Dallas friends that I haven't seen in a year or so that we're going to hang out with on Friday night. And then we're going to be back at KSP Henderson. And then, Mike, we're going to do the post-game show from AT&T Stadium. Got the clearance from Mr. Jones on that. Really excited. I've never done any sort of radio from there. So that's kind of my weekend in a nutshell. There will be beers consumed at some point during this venture, especially if Arkansas gets it done against the Aggies, man.
All right, so, hey, moment of truth, Ty. Who you got winning the ball game?
I think the difference is the quarterback position, and it's KJ Jefferson by a mile. It's not even close. A&M, and you made the point on Feinbaum. That tweet is still pinned at the top of my page, and you better believe it's going to get retweeted if they win on Saturday night. But the point you made on Paul Feinbaum was A&M has a quarterback issue, and it's not just this year. It's been several years under Jimbo Fisher. Arkansas doesn't have a quarterback issue. You can make the case that they have the second best quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. He's proven it through 3 football games, and he's got a big one on Saturday. But when you take what he has running, throwing the football, and the leadership factor that he has, no disrespect to Mac Johnson from that perspective, because I know sometimes when you take the quarterback position over from another guy, it's hard to do that. KJ has all that. He has all the intangibles, all the toughness, all the mobility that puts him over the top when it comes to every single comparison when it comes to Max Johnson and KJ Jefferson. So I'm taking the Hogs. It's going to be close. It's going to be tight. My nails are going to be down to the bitter end because I'll be chewing on them so much. But I'm taking Arkansas in a nail biter Saturday night on ESPN, a grand stage at Mr. Jones's house. I can't wait, Mike.
Real quick, I know you just referenced that famous Feinbaum clip that you actually have pinned to your profiles.
Oh, yeah.
The Aggies are not happy with me with that. But so I don't know if you know this. I went on TexAgs, and, man, they reamed me out. I heard from a Texas A&M media member this morning. I don't want to put his name out there because I don't know if he wants this out there. But he said, I cannot wait for this SEC Mike David Nuno bowl showdown here in Arlington. So, hey, I'm right there with you, man. It's like I need Arkansas to win to validate all my big mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Mike, and listen, you're one of us. One of us. And Saturday night, I think, can definitely validate what you're said. But the point is, and I made this on the Morning Rush this morning, when you think about 2 of the most arrogant fan bases in all of sports, it's Texas and Texas A&M. I will give the Longhorns credit. They actually win championships and they've been to 2 national championships in the last 2 decades. I will give them that. Texas A&M has the same level of arrogance that Texas has, but there's nothing to back it up. Texas has some stuff to back it up. I know it's older in some cases, but they have stuff to back it up. A&M doesn't at all. Outside the oil money, that is the only level comparison between the Longhorns and the Aggies is the oil money. There's nothing else. They got the worst colors, the worst uniforms in all of college football. They have the worst tradition in all of college football, and they are the biggest losers in the Southeastern Conference. I have never met a fan base outside of maybe Missouri that I would like to hang out with least. I mean, it is amazing. And I know they are – and listen, they have some blue collar to them. I get that. But the Aggie yell is the worst tradition in sports. It is embarrassing that they continue to trot up those just plain Jane losers on Friday night before games and spit out some of the most idiotic stuff I've ever heard in my entire life. It's a joke. College Station is a terrible place to live, raise a family, whatever. I know I'm going to get ripped by A&M fans after this, but I don't really care because the opinions of the sheep, they don't matter to a line. And Arkansas's got a bunch of lines in here. They're going to prove it on Saturday. KJ Jefferson's going to run all over these guys and probably pass for 300 yards as well.
All right, those are Ty's words, not mine, but I do appreciate the hotness coming from Arkansas there, brother. I appreciate you. This is a hell of a time. Well, before you go, tell the audience where to find your work.
At Ty Sports Radio on Twitter. I don't know if any A&M fan will be wanting to peruse that after this show. And again, as Mike just said, he is there's like a disclaimer line in the podcast right now. These words and opinions are not of Michael Bratton and Cousin Shane's, but only of their guest or whatever. But yeah, at Ty Sports Radio, and then our show every morning, the Morning Rush from 6 to 9 weekdays on ESPN Arkansas and hitthatline.com.
All right, once again, hey, those are Ty's words, not mine, but I sure as hell appreciate the fact that he shared them on this program to maybe get us I mean, just imagine, I didn't want to say this, but if Arkansas loses, my God, he'll never live that down. Any of those comments, A&M That's going to be all over Texags in the morning, so to speak. So, man, this has been one entertaining and fun show. Like I said, Cousin Shane will be back on the next episode to preview these weekend games in the SEC. Cannot wait for another weekend of SEC action. But that is going to do it for this episode of the show. We'll catch you on the next one.